call.
You bet it has. I want some info.
The bomb might explode without any warning. Then the first thing we would know about it would be the flash.
What's up, everybody? My name is Donkey Kong. I'm gonna tell you right now.
There's no time to look around or wait. Be like Bert. When there is a flash, duck and cover, and do it fast. Here are some older boys.
Powerful killers, like the famous female leptic kidney. She is a meter long and a common sight in the forest 50 million years ago. Her kind have survived virtually unchanged since the time of the dinosaurs. Life, though, is scarcely any easier now. This is still a perilous world where she must live fast and will probably die young.
You're not supposed to go and review a place if you're a vegetarian that sells...
I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegetarian.
Yeah, but you only eat red.
All right, Freddie, you should get back to doing your report for your school newspaper.
You might be eating your lunch when the flash comes. Duck and cover under the table. Then, if the explosion makes anything in the room fall down, it can't fall on you. Getting ready means we will all have to be able to take care of ourselves. The bomb might explode when there are no grown-ups near. Paul and Patty know this, and they're always ready to take care of themselves. Here they are on their way to school on a beautiful spring day. But no matter where they go or what they do, they always try to remember.
The only thing that I can say to you is pray, cause when niggas start equipping and throw the
It's a bomb, duck and cover. The man helping Tony is a civil defense worker. His job is to help protect us when there is danger of the atomic bomb. We must obey the civil defense worker. Duck and cover. Don't wait. Duck away from the windows fast. Duck and cover. In the city or the country, we must be ready all the time for the atomic bomb. Duck and cover.
What are you supposed to do when you see the flash?
Older people will help us as they always do. But there might not be any grown-ups around when the bomb explodes. Then, you're on your own. Tony knows the bomb can explode any time of the year, day or night. He is ready for it. Duck and cover. Atta boy, Tony. Notice how he keeps from moving or from getting up and running?
Listen.
I will be for you, and I'll be with you.
What a nice soul.
The good doctor, more like the sometimes transphobic doctor who learns lessons and valuable life skills. There's recently been a scene going viral from the 2016 drama The Good Doctor. It's one of those doctor shows, but it has the difference of the protagonist, Sean, having autism and facing challenges around that in his personal life and work life. The popular clip is a pretty strange one to go viral, in that it's literally just Sean having a meltdown and then the doctor sitting across from him being cool and collected. I'm not going to play it though, because I think ABC is a lot more likely to take down my video than Nelvana, the company that made Donkey Kong Country. So basically what happens is Sean...
Editing Carissa here. So I'm not going to play the clip as for like the reasons I was describing earlier. So I had two options. I could do this, which was the screen recording combined with the music that I was blasting, since I was only doing it for visuals. Or I could do this dub that I did. The dub is like 1 minute and 30 seconds long, so I don't know how the fuck I'll do that. I'll probably just like put a timer on screen or something. I am not leaving your office until you reinstate me. What are you doing, Sean? You think lowering me to do something will change my mind? Do you really think it's a good idea to try and bully me?
I am a surgeon. I am a surgeon. Do you realize that you're proving my point? That you're acting immature and showing that you don't know how to communicate and you can't control your emotions. I am a surgeon. But you do have a talent that I value. So I'm gonna give you one last chance to maintain your dignity and leave my office. Now. Because if I have to call security, do you understand that I'm also gonna have to fire you? I am a surgeon. I am a surgeon. Sean just screams, I am a surgeon, over and over. The clip went viral because some people were claiming it was related to Sean getting transferred from being a surgeon to a pathologist as a result of his poor bedside manner involving transphobia. At least that's the claim. I'll get into the connection of the two in a bit. The most interesting part of the allegation is the allegedly transphobic episode they are referencing. While the episode where Sean gets into the altercation where he has a mental breakdown is in Season 2, the episode featuring a trans character and some potential for transphobia from the part of the show is all the way back in Season 1. The episode is very interesting, and it's what I'll be focusing on in this review, outside of addressing the connection between the two episodes at the end. A few minutes into the episode, we are introduced to the subject of Sean's anti-transgender opinions, a trans girl named Quinn. Before I get into this situation, I have a trigger warning for the snowflakes in the audience. I believe biology doesn't reflect gender or pronouns, because both of those are cultural, and culture changes. As it should in this case, because it's very important to protect the mental health and lives of transgender people to affirm them. Making the situation way less complicated, she's only in the hospital because of a problem with her stomach. At least that's what it's introduced as. I don't know if this is normal for a hospital, but they just kind of pull up her hospital gown, presumably to see her stomach, and then Sean just points out her genitals very explicitly. It is so fucking funny that they go directly from Sean pointing out her genitals into a title sequence. So you would expect that this conflict would be at the center of the episode, but in reality it just switches between this and some boring-ass plots involving appendicitis and someone who can't get pregnant. As for the portrayal of trans issues in this, I think the portrayal of direct transphobia is very clearly portrayed as negative. The main villain for that direct transphobia isn't actually Sean at all, it's Quinn's grandma. Her central hate revolves around the claim that Quinn being transgender is just a phase, which I relate to as upsetting. I'm non-binary, not trans, but I was told my bisexuality would be a phase when I was 15. Even if that is true, which it didn't turn out to be, I still think that's a fucked up thing to say. Imagine my grandma challenging the heterosexuality of a boyfriend my mom had in college. People would think that's a really fucked up saying. Conservatives would call it grooming towards being gay or being LGBTQ, but it would never go the other way around into saying that being gay or bi or lesbian is a phase. Sean's initial argument for invalidating trans people is supposed to be, I think, autistic, and that he has XY pronouns, so he is a boy. In any case, I think it's clear that if there is any transphobia in this episode, it is not in the form of invalidating trans people's existence or trans children's existence. Although the progress of Sean's beliefs is a bit confusing and muddled throughout the episode, there is one interaction in which his beliefs are directly challenged in a way that might be thought-provoking to him. Quinn asks Sean, other than biologically, how do you know you're supposed to be a boy? Sean replies that the question doesn't make sense because he's not supposed to be anything, but he's pretty fucking adamant about gender, something that he's calling effectively pointless. One comment I saw online that resonated with me is that autistic people might actually be more likely to accept trans people because recognizing the absurdity of assigning gender based on birth, which will in turn assign what someone does in life, their role in society, just based on biology. I think that would apply a lot more to autistic people who are online or Zoomers, but I still think Sean's reasoning and portrayal here is a little bit unrealistic. Most of Sean's inappropriate behavior in this episode is actually going up and asking invasive questions, seemingly to learn more about transgender people or to challenge his beliefs, such as asking Quinn if she wears dresses. Granted, he does misgender her throughout the episode, but that feels minor compared to all of the direct hate coming from her grandma. I think this behavior is still definitely an abuse of power, because, she's stuck laying down about to go into a machine I forgot the name of, so it's hard for her to turn him away or refuse his questions. It also would create an extremely uncomfortable environment, as we see when his coworker Jared tells him to stop because he doesn't stop asking questions. His questions aren't actually very problematic in themselves, it's more so just asking about gender stereotypes, such as what Quinn wears, or if she plays with dolls, or what her favorite color is, or if she takes dance, which does seemingly reflect that he knows gender comes with a purpose, otherwise why the fuck would he be aware of gender stereotypes? Because the show has to heighten the tensions related to her being trans, they revealed that the problem with her is actually that she had testicular cancer, which is something that I just learned from a government website that seems to share Sean's opinions on gender in the beginning of the episode. Puberty blockers are revealed to be likely the cause of the testicular cancer, which her grandma didn't know about prior to this being revealed as the cause. The doctors say that she needs to come off of it. Even the main ally of the episode tells her that she'll be fine without it, but that comes across more like ignorance than proper bedside manner. The science behind all of this is poorly explained for the entire episode. I can understand why there might be some side effect of puberty blockers that would result on this, but I can't really understand why she couldn't go back on puberty blockers after the cancer was removed. And one of the solutions to that is both of the testes being removed. There's also a meeting happening at around the same time as this medical emergency where the grandma accuses Quinn's parents of emotional and physical abuse for accepting Quinn as being trans and allowing her to be on puberty blockers. The parents have to decide on if Quinn should receive a bilateral surgery, which, from what I understand, is a removal of both testes and an effective sterilization of her. The talking point for this is about whether it's okay to castrate a trans child, which has always been a really hard one for me to argue to conservatives. I once tried to persuade a conservative on this by creating an analogy to it being similar to giving a child a really effective antidepressant, but it would sterilize them. And I agree that being able to reproduce is a right, but only to the extent that forced or coerced sterilization should be heavily discouraged. I think overall the reasons he didn't agree with this is, 1, a penis owner's purpose in life is seemingly to reproduce. 2, he has never lived through the experience of having a severely depressed child and seeing what that's like. I think a common thing that parents who experience that would go through is a severe fear that their child is going to off themselves. And I think we should consider the benefit of that not happening anymore with an effective antidepressant, similarly to how we should consider the mental health benefits of surgeries which might potentially sterilize trans children. Those also happen to be life-saving sometimes, and I think that's more important than the potential for baby fever later in life. Speaking of, that's a lot like Quinn's situation when new information is brought up. Her parents revealed during the mediation session that after being socialized as a boy, Quinn started to hate herself and eventually had an attempt to end her own life. This was seemingly news to the grandma, who still thinks Quinn is just a confused child. In the same mediation process, this guy, Dr. Andrews, claims that there's not enough evidence, or there's not much evidence at all, in support of elective surgeries which will effectively sterilize, but there is a lot of evidence on the benefits of being able to reproduce later in life. This made me quite a bit uncomfortable because it seemed to presume that being able to reproduce later in life will inherently have mental health benefits. I highly doubt that is true, especially for trans people. Sean, once again asking questions in a room that Quinn can't leave, asks her what it feels like to be a girl. And this is progress because he is implying that Quinn is a girl because she knows what it's like to feel like a girl, because how would a boy know that feeling? Perhaps the most interesting and telling quote around transphobia in this episode is when Quinn's grandma says, "I don't know if I'll ever be able to accept that," in the context of her granddaughter being trans. So basically, her entire argument previously was that children are often confused and it's just a phase, but now she's revealing that she wouldn't give a fuck if Quinn was 25 and trans. During the mediation process, there's a medical emergency where Quinn is having testicular torsion, and one of the solutions to this involves her being sterilized. Her mom echoes the same fucked up talking point of what if she wants to have kids later in life, but her dad subtly strikes this down by telling the doctors to do what is medically necessary. The result of this is that motherfucker Dr. Andrews saying that he couldn't in good conscience remove a healthy organ. That's just code for him prescribing moral value onto the ability to reproduce towards someone that says they won't want to. He even tries bedside manner to persuade Quinn that she can't comprehend whether or not she'll want kids later in life. Quinn responds with saying that if she wanted kids, she would just adopt, and he couldn't say a fucking thing back to that. No comeback. As the episode wraps up, there's kind of a good ending in that Sean calls her a girl. We don't really see the evolution of his thoughts at all, though. We just see his questioning, so I'm not exactly sure how he abandoned his initial thought process. It's nice to see character progression for the protagonist, but there's still such a sour taste in my mouth after Dr. Andrews was like that. As for if the episode is transphobic, I really don't think it is. I don't think it's transphobic to suggest to not remove her testes, or whatever poorly explained procedure they were considering. It's just attached to problematic beliefs about reproduction, which happen to be bad particularly for people who experience gender dysphoria. The transphobia is still debatable, but I don't think the representation is all that bad, especially considering this episode was released in 2016. Now to the part that people have heard about from Twitter, the Dr. Han scene. To recap, Dr. Han isn't involved in transferring Sean to pathology until Season 2. The episode I've been reviewing and talking about is in Season 1, so I was really skeptical as to if there was a connection at all. Regardless, I decided to watch the episodes related to the meltdown anyways while I was training to get a Super Paper Mario world record. It turned out to be true that they are completely unrelated. In fact, Dr. Han wouldn't even know about Sean misgendering a patient. It's not as clear who's in the wrong as Twitter makes it out to be, though. For autistic people, they often have a special interest, and for Sean, that appears to be him being a surgeon. In the plotline of this episode with Dr. Han, they had to go to Sean for surgery tips, even though he was in pathology, so of course he's going to be pissed that he's not a surgeon. He might suck at bedside manner, but that doesn't mean he isn't a genius with what he does in surgery. In the end, Dr. Han goes through with his threat to Sean that he will fire him if he doesn't get out of his office. I think that decision was completely unreasonable, It's clearly harassment from Sean's part to go into someone's office and refuse to believe, but, still. He can just be understanding towards what it's like to be an autistic person in a meltdown and how Sean couldn't reasonably communicate. Dr. Han's portrayal isn't actually good at all either. In the first episode Dr. Han is introduced in, we see the absurdity in how he leads as the chief of surgery. It's to a comical degree of how much they want him to be a villain. As soon as he starts interacting with Sean and the others during a surgery, he turns on some music while they're operating, but it's up-tempo music, not relaxing, and, obviously this is going to distract Sean based on how his character is. Dr. Han wasn't ever supposed to be that dude who tells it like it is. He was supposed to be that dude who punishes Sean for missing social cues. When Sean's friend tells Dr. Han that Sean is working on picking up on social cues and that he's still learning, Dr. Han tells her to focus on her own shortcomings. He then says a really fucked up statement. Quote, "No matter how hard he works, no matter how hard you try and help him, his limitations are not going to change. He's going to continue to inflict them on our patients, all in the name of diversity and inclusion." I think that's pretty clearly out of hate. The incident of him being transphobic was not brought up in that episode or conversation once. The part that he was fired for transphobia is just complete misinformation. Be careful of what the Bird app tells you, and feel free to subscribe for more reviews of TV shows. Okay, bye.